Welcome to First Things First, the weekday morning devotions from Pastor Stephen Miller at First Free Will Baptist Church of Morrison City in Kingsport, Tennessee.
Good morning and welcome to First Things First. Today is Tuesday, November the 26th, and so thankful for another day that the Lord's blessed us with. That day that He's given to us and allowed us to wake up and to come and to read His Word and study into His book and see what He has for us. And today, as we continue on, it's hard to believe we think about Thanksgiving during this time, but for the Thanksgiving week, actually, our theme is being disobedience leads to defeat. And yesterday, it's what we talked about with, and we're going to be jumping into that once again today. And we find our scriptures in 1 Samuel chapter 15. Yesterday we was talking about Joshua and how that he told us not to forsake the Lord and not to turn our backs on the Lord, but to be obedient to Him. And today we're finding here an instance of one of the first king that disobeyed God and how that it affected him. So in 1 Kings chapter 15, verse 17, the Bible says, "And Samuel said, When thou wast little in thine own sight, wast thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed thee king over Israel. And the Lord sent thee on a journey, and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took of the spoil sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, Hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king." And here as we see this, when we're looking at Saul today, the first king of Israel, and how that he was supposed to, be obedient. And you got to remember, you go back, and God never wanted a king, to be honest with you. We had judges, or Israel had judges that would listen to God and judge the people over them, but the people decided that they wanted a king. So God made Saul a king and gave him the opportunity to lead God's people. And but yet, instead of being obedient and trusting God, Saul continually turned his back on God and went his own ways and did his own thing. And he would say a good thing, he would say that, "Oh, I'm doing what the Lord had me to do." Even here, whenever Samuel confronted Saul about it, said, "I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and I've gone the way which the Lord sent me. I did everything." But then he turns it around in verse 21 and said, "But the people took of the spoil, the sheep and the oxen, and that which should have been destroyed." And he starts blaming it on them, but he is the leader. He's the one that's in charge. He's the one that should have made sure that the people were doing what was obedient. And I know that we can't make people do what we want them to do, but whenever we see them sin, whenever we see somebody in the wrong, we can call them out according to the Bible. We need to call them out, especially the leaders. And no, it's not saying, that we point our fingers and tell them, tell the world, what they've done. First of all, we need to do what the Bible tells us to. If we see our brother sin or in a fault, then we need to go to them. And if they won't hear us, then we take somebody with us and we have a witness. And then if they won't hear that, then we bring them before the church, and that's the biblical way of doing things. We don't just stand up and point our fingers at somebody and from the pulpit and say you're in the wrong and you're doing this, but we do it the right way and we lead the right way. And whenever we do things the right way, then God will bless us. But here, Saul didn't do what God would have him to do. He wasn't obedient. He didn't tell the people, that they were in sin and that they needed to give up things. Saul had to have heard the sheep and had to have heard the oxen or maybe even seen them for himself. And, he had to have seen these things going on. But yet he turned an eye to it, and he turned his head and allowed those things to happen. And then he even made the excuse, well, they brought it back to be a sacrifice unto the Lord and unto God in Gilgal. And that wasn't what God wanted them to do. It wasn't in the sacrifices. It was in the obedience and trusting God for what he said. And whenever they did not do what God said to do, and Saul just let it go and let it kind of swept it under the rug, so to say, then he was punished for this. He said, Samuel told him in verse 23, therefore rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. It's no different from witchcraft. And think about how evil, and bad that is, that you're worshiping other deities or other things, and witchcraft to try to gain knowledge. Well, rebellion is the same sin as witchcraft, and the stubbornness. This is a hard one for us today, especially. The stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Listen, we don't need to be stubborn against God. We need to do what God would have for us to do. And because that Saul had rejected the word of the Lord, Samuel said that he hath also rejected thee from being king. And how sad that would be, to be rejected by God and to know that we have done the wrong, that it's not God's fault that Saul messed up. It's not God's fault that the people took of the spoil. But it wasn't actually Saul's fault that the people took of the spoil, but it was Saul's position to point that out and to reprimand them and to show them the right way and to leave that stuff or to destroy it utterly, just like God said to. But they wouldn't do that. So today, as we go through this life, let's do things the right way. Let's do things God's way. And if we would do that, and we would be obedient to him, then he will bless us. He will strengthen us on our journey. And friend, I hope that you have a blessed day today, and hope that you can find strength in this, and just strength to be able to obey the Lord, and you say, well, I can't do it. Nobody can live up to the Bible and everything. Well, I guess you're right on that, but you know what? I can't do it on my own anyways. But the Bible tells us in Philippians that I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And today, if you'll put your trust in him, follow his will, follow his mercy and His grace, then He will bless you and give you that you need. Friend, again, hope that you have a blessed day today. Hope the Lord will strengthen you today. And remember that tonight is our community prayer meeting right before Thanksgiving. We always have a great Thanksgiving service, and we join together in with 2 or 3 other churches. And tonight that service is going to be at Parker's Chapel Free Will Baptist Church, and we're looking forward to joining in service with them. And we always have a good time. And Brother Jim McComas will be preaching for us, Lord's willing. So we're looking forward to that, and hope that you can come out and make it tonight at 7 o'clock to Parker's Chapel. And I hope to see you again tomorrow morning, too, for another edition of First Things First. May God bless you as our prayers.
First Things First is a ministry of First Free Will Baptist Church of Morrison City. We are located at 211 West Carters Valley Road in Kingsport, Tennessee.